I can think of no better way to tell you the history of the farm than through our old buildings. Built by Count Stackelberg, the manor house is our most prominent building. The Count used bricks from the farm's brickworks to construct the house in 1766. When the bricks were put in the sun to dry, the local children playing outside ran over some of them, leaving their footprints. In Count Stackelberg's time, Almnäs was a much busier place than today. In addition to the brick workers at the factory, there were carpenters, blacksmiths, and many farmhands and their families who supported the farm's agriculture. Almnäs also employed people to work in a sawmill, flour mill, cheesery, linen weaving factory, and even a distillery. The man-made fish ponds provided a fresh supply of fish. The Count only came to Almnäs for a few months each year. He brought a large staff for the duration of his stay, before returning to his house in Stockholm, or to visit one of his other farms. A map from 1680 is the oldest evidence we have that shows what the farm looked like prior to the buildings we see today. Although none of our buildings survive from before 1766, let me tell you a little bit of the early history of the farm. Our open farm day is held each year on the 14th of August, because the earliest reference we have to the farm is a document stating that the monks from Alvastra Monastery were given the rights to a homestead called Islabu on that day in 1225. Islabu and 9 adjacent homesteads became the property of the noblewoman Margareta Bielka in 1586, in an exchange with her cousin, King Johann III. One of these homesteads was called Almnäs, which became the name of the new and expanding estate. For centuries, Almnäs was managed in the traditional way of tenant farming. The estate was administered by a manager. The tenant farmers paid rent by working a certain number of hours and by contributing produce to the business, including cheese. The importance of grain as a crop is reflected in the large grain storage built in 1821. Notice the iron bars in the windows to protect the harvest. In 1799, a barn was built for boiling saltpeter, necessary for producing gunpowder. Today's use of the building is more peaceful as the venue for our annual Christmas market. During the 18th century, a new system of day laborers who worked for room and board on one-year contracts came into being. Throughout the 19th century, the demand for these laborers grew. On Almnäs, they lived with their families in these 3 houses. Although pretty from the outside, the houses provided poor living conditions. The system, abolished in 1945, is a part of our history in which we take no pride. The expansion of agriculture at the farm called for larger cow stables and barns. This barn was built in 1870. During this period, cheese-making on Almnäs grew in importance, and in 1860, a cheesery was built at what used to be the tenant farm Vrångebäck. Today, we use the old distillery for cheese-making, and we have converted a corner of the old cow stable into our cheese storage. The milking cows have moved elsewhere. It is an important ambition for us to take as good care of these old buildings as we possibly can. We use them for production when it is feasible, but also to share a piece of Swedish history with our friends.